Welcome back to Commercial and Cocktails with Colt. Again, got my lovely wife here, the mortgage diva herself,
That's
Yvette
right.
Amidan here.
Hello.
So Yvette, this is something that is really not commercial related, but investment deal related, and just the stupidity of things I see from people. Even very smart people do some stupid stuff with loans. You know, every time we go sell an investment property, a duplex, triplex, fourplex, and you know, you're involved in it, I hear you just moaning about what people do. So today, let's talk about why you're always cursing people out after you hang up the phone, of what are some of the stupid things people can do or have done, and what should they do? What's the biggest thing you see that kills deals once they're in escrow?
The number one mistake people do is acquiring new debt into your monthly liabilities. That can kill a deal really quick. I've seen people get out of a lease and get into another one after I told them not to do that. But what happens?
Lease on what?
A car, sorry. On a car with a higher payment when their DTI was already at the max. And these people think that we're not going to find out. We are going to find out.
Well, I think people assume once you're approved that you guys don't double check stuff.
Right.
And probably a decade ago, 15 years ago, you guys probably didn't.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But nowadays with the economy, what happened in 2006 through 10 really, a lot of people said you guys were some of the big fault with a lot of the big mortgage or bankers, investment bankers and stuff like that, but that people were doing loans. So you guys have really clamped down, correct?
Correct. We, right before closing, we do something called a credit soft pull. Basically, we're just looking for new acquired debt.
So I had somebody doing a fourplex once, and they went out and bought furniture.
Right.
Opened a credit card and killed the deal. And they lost their earnest money. They lost their, I think that one was like $10,000. And they were mad after I told them not to buy anything, after you told them not to buy anything. So what are other things people do as far as hurting their credit, getting their debt too high? What are things people do day in, day out that you see that just frustrates you?
Great question, because I have a perfect example. Last week, during the transaction, I had a client who just forgot to pay his credit card, and it went over 30 days late.
Ooh.
And that dipped his credit score 100 points, and that made him lose everything.
So he wasn't
killed the
able to
deal.
buy?
He was, no, because it went under, I think it went right under 580. He was already at a low 600.
So just being lazy, guys. He
And
probably lost his earnest money.
Yeah, he did.
It's sad, and it's just stupid stuff like that every day. Let's talk about this is the end of the pandemic when we're filming this. And a lot of people think that they could just not pay their loan, they get this forbearance. Explain to people, is that truly just they don't have to pay it and they're okay and they'll just pick up, or are they hurt doing that? Could you go buy a secondary home right now if you haven't been paying your loan?
Well, it depends. First, you just can't not make your mortgage payment. You have to call the bank and get into forbearance, okay? And depending on what bank it is, everybody has different guidelines. Some banks will ask you to pay everything. For example, let's say you're going into forbearance only for 3 months because that's all you asked for.
Right.
At the end of those 3 months, they're going to want you to pay everything, all the 3 payments.
Before you can
end your
another one.
end your forbearance contract. They want you to get up to date with your mortgage. Other mortgage companies will put those missed payments on the back end of your loan, and then you're out of forbearance, and then you can proceed. Now, it also depends. Let's say you want to refinance and you're in forbearance. It depends if you're on an FHA loan or a conventional. Conventional, you just have to get up to date with your mortgage payments and get out of forbearance. FHA, you cannot be in forbearance more than, I think, 2 or 3 months, because if you're in longer, you have to wait 12 months to get to refi or get into another loan, period. So you have to be really careful with this forbearance. You have to just educate yourself on the different rules on forbearance, because another story. In January, I had a client who sold their house to buy another house. Well, the house they sold was an FHA loan, and they were in forbearance for 5 months, okay? And they couldn't buy for another year.
So they sold their home, now
they're homeless. Yes.
Go rent.
It's sad, but that's exactly what happened.
So we talked about people buying stuff during the process of their contracts. What else are things that just make you go, wow?
Honestly, I'm very, when I'm doing my initial consultation with the client, one of the first things that a lot of us loan officers say is, during this process, don't apply for anything that needs financing, credit cards, furniture, cars. Don't co-sign for anybody, because if you co-sign, you are responsible for that payment. People think
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because that's something that I hear people say, I have no debt. And then I send them to a lender. They want to buy another investment property. I send them to a lender and say, hey, these guys should be good. They're making good money. They have no debt. And the lender always calls and goes,
that's my favorite. I have no debt.
They've got 3 houses.
Yeah, that is absolutely my favorite. I have no debt. And when I pull their credit report, they have 3 different car payments, but they assume that because they just co-signed for their mom or their sister, that they're not responsible, and then that's absolutely false. They are responsible.
So that will affect their DTI.
Debt to income ratio, absolutely. Now, there's ways to get around it, as far as if that person you co-sign for can provide 12 months of bank statements showing that they've made the payment out of their bank statement, and the car statement has to show that you are a co-signer, then we can get around that. Let's say
it's a pain in the butt, right?
Yeah, it's a pain in the butt. And also, let's say,
and not all lenders are amazing.
Like myself, just FYI.
They're not all created equal. No, but it's the honest to goodness truth. I always say 75% of your deals would not go through if there's other people on it, just because the type of people you've represented aren't just your traditional, here's your annual salary you're making. You got wealthy people that pay themselves weird. You've got, the below average crowd that maybe has a lot more cash and stuff. So you are good. That's why I like to have you on
You're
here.
just trying to get on my good side, but thank you.
No, you're still mad at me. But so the DTI is the biggest thing.
Yes.
And everybody, this is another thing. I have amazing credit. I should be approved for whatever. It doesn't just work that way. You can have amazing credit and no income. And
correct. So, and I love that you just said that, because another one of my favorites, people have amazing credit, right? And they think that because they have amazing credit, they could buy anything, right? So what people don't realize is that credit, so how it works when you're buying a loan is the credit will determine if you qualify to buy a house. Your income will determine how much you qualify for, okay? So if you are not working, or you don't have a lot of income, then you cannot qualify to buy a home, because you have to show that you can repay the loan. Yes, your credit is great, but you have to show the bank that you can repay the loan.
Could you buy a fourplex without a job if the income is good enough on that? Do you guys look at it that way, or not really?
Yes, you can, if the units itself pay.
You'd have to get a really good deal on fourplex.
Yeah, you have to get a really good deal.
Which is very hard to do right now.
Yeah, and that's a good question, by the way.
So anything else, is there anything else daily you just shake your head at? I mean, this is one that I always shake my head at, that people will just say, well, I want to go with certain banks because that's where they went, right? And people don't realize agents have a blacklist of banks, people, agents, brokerages, banks that they don't like working with, because we won't talk about banks or talk people in general, but let's talk about when people say, yeah, this bank can do it. But everybody in the industry knows it's going to be 45 days. Now, in a good market, a fourplex isn't going to wait that long. A duplex isn't going to wait that long. Even a single-family investment home's not going to wait that long. What's a real average turnaround from a good lender?
Well, I can tell you mine. My average turnaround from application to close, contract to close, is 23 days. My average.
23 days. So if a bank's saying 45 days is as quick as it can do, they're full of Yes?
Yes, yeah, they are.
And this isn't on commercial. On commercial, things can be 90 days, but we're just talking about investment homes, single-family homes, duplexes, triplexes. Is there any reason it should go past 30 days?
It all depends on the loan officer, right? Like, the more work you do up front, yes, I get it. It's a pain in the butt, right? I get it. Because the first consultation could go longer, right? But the more work you do up front as far as collecting all the documentation, having a full application, once that contract gets in, it just flows, right? But if you're lazy and just take the minimum...
If your lender's doing their job.
Correct.
And also you are doing your job as a buyer. Because this is something that I've got a deal right now on a warehouse that the lender's freaking out because we got another 15 days to close. And they're not even closed because the client will not get them the documents.
Correct. You have to hold your buyers accountable too, because they're purchasing a home, right? And they have to be responsible as well. Like, as a loan officer, you also have to set expectations. Listen, I can close your loan fast, but you have to help me out here, right? Like, when I ask you for approval conditions, get them to me as fast as you can, right? Because the faster you can get them to me, the faster I can close your loan.
I don't think people, and this goes on both sides, commercial and residential, that your loan is a process.
Yes.
That's why if you don't have a loan, you can close deals in 14 days, 10 days, 7 days.
I've closed the deals in 10 days,
right.
but that took...
But I'm talking about there's a process of why the average is 30 days or yours is 20.
Right.
But because there is a process of we need this.
Mm-hmm.
When they ask for something, your process stops most of the time.
Yes.
So if you sit there and take a week to get back what they ask, now you've just delayed your loan a week.
Exactly.
So when somebody, your loan officer on both sides, whether it's an investment or a commercial deal or whatever it is, when your loan officer asks you for something, get it done.
Exactly.
Because your process stops. So I appreciate you coming by. You know, last time I asked you what's the weirdest thing people make in money in Vegas. This time I'm going to ask you what's the weirdest thing that has happened to you in business, other than creepy guys sending you inappropriate pictures.
That's on the next episode.
Just so you know, she doesn't open any videos or pictures. She hands it to me. So when you send an inappropriate picture,
I get scared.
unfortunately, you're sending it to me, guys.
Yeah,
and,
so.
you know, it is what it is. But anything else crazy happen in your industry? I mean, in Vegas, in your industry?
Not that I can think of, but, I mean, it is Vegas, right?
Just always doing deals at 11 o'clock, midnight, getting phone calls because people getting off of work.
Oh, yeah. That's always, though.
Right.
The market doesn't have to be crazy or anything. That's just the life of the loan officer. And I'm sure it is for you guys.
It's just the life of Vegas.
Yeah.
People
and Vegas, too. We're all at different times. People work graveyard. And there's people that text me, like, at 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably won't respond, but I'm aware.
Well, I appreciate the mortgage diva herself,
Thank you.
Yvette Amidan, coming in.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Stop being mean. Stop being mad at me. Thanks.
Until the next episode.
Mm-hmm.